Hey, Bulelani Balabala here. Welcome to the Small Business Podcast. We bring you weekly information, practical skills, and mentorship from industry professionals. This podcast is powered by T, an initiative that has directly impacted over 50,000 plus small businesses nationwide. This podcast is for small business owners who want to start, run, and grow their business. Follow us on all our social media platforms. #JoinUs4T. Every Wednesday is a new podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, shout out, man. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 33. We know that the last two episodes, I guess to you guys watching on YouTube, were not available on YouTube. You guys can go listen to episode 31 and 32 on Spotify and Apple Podcast. We had some tech issues, but we're back like we never left. And we've got an amazing lady in studio. You see her, man, her brand colors look exactly like our brand colors. An amazing lady. We got to meet, chat, and synergize in terms of, I guess, developing and saving, not necessarily saving, but I guess saving in a sense, right? Because I guess they're the superheroes that are charting a differential way of providing learning, of providing employment solutions, of providing training solutions for large corporates, which has an amazing direct effect on young, amazing South Africans. And I think when you see the large number of unemployment numbers, and I guess year on year, we see the same large corporates sort of taking on interns, then discarding them, and then getting new ones. They've come up with an amazing formula through our chat of how you build retention, long-term retention, and build talent for the long term. So I've got none other than the amazing, I almost said Michelina. No, it's an inside joke. Her name is not I've got an amazing woman in studio, Michelina, the founder. How does it feel?
Amazing.
the founder of Grow Right. But you guys have now changed to Edge.
Yeah.
So maybe
Edge
tell us
Solutions.
a bit of Edge Solutions. Maybe
Yes.
tell us a bit about that. Just introduce yourself to our guests and yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute honor to be here. Stalking Bulelani paid off. Literally. I think to sum it up in a nutshell, Edge, engage, develop, grow, empower. It's what we do. Yeah. It's our magic. And I think you summed it up pretty well around entrepreneurship, the youth of this country. It's alarming that almost 74%, if not more, of our youth have either just given up, stopped looking for employment, or have just decided, you know what, they're done. And those are alarming stats. And I think it's very much a collective, it's a synergistic partnership that Edge tries to establish with amazing people like yourself and really changing the country and the dynamic of South Africa.
But let's just track back a bit. Where did the whole journey start? Were you always entrepreneurial? Did you always have this entrepreneurial bug? Or did it just bite you along the way?
If we have to rewind 10 years, I wanted to be a chef.
Wow.
I'm a foodie. But the truth is, I think about 6 years ago, because Grow Right is officially in its 6th year of operation, I often say the same line. I had vision and passion in my 2 back pockets. And it was really, I worked for 2 other companies prior to this in the training and development sector. And unfortunately, not to discredit anyone, but large corporates chase money. I'm changing lives. And that's what we're chasing here. And it was never going to be an option to go back to corporate. It was either change industry or actually start my own business, which if I have to look back at now, I'm kind of going, wow, I never thought that this is where I would be. But I'm so grateful I am. I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah, and for me, when you sort of look at the transition from being this individual who's in corporate, who's got the backing of, you've got a finance division, you've got an HR division, legal, all that stuff. You can sort of tap into all these departments. Now you jump into entrepreneurship and you are all of these things in one. How was that transition for you? Was it a shock to your system? And how did you adjust?
Listen, I think in the first year, you learn a lot as you go. And entrepreneurship really is that saying where it says you kind of just jump off the cliff and grow wings on the way down. It's the only way to define what entrepreneurship is. And I really wish that I did have somebody who could have held my hand when I started this journey, because your first year of entrepreneurship is really do or die, make or break, because you are learning about all these new things. And hello, welcome, my name is Saz. and all of a sudden, you're not just paying personal tax, but it's income tax, it's PAYE, it's VAT, and you're kind of going, shit, half my money's gone before I've made any, you know? And I really, and I think this is where our business has developed and started changing from what we do, because we are very, very involved in supporting and empowering youth to start their own businesses, just like I did. Because I know for a fact, if I can, you can.
Sure. And that's amazing. But now, where do you get that from? Because oftentimes when you sort of meet women, and I always raise this when I've got women in studio, amazing women in studio, because all of them are, right? That oftentimes you then find that they're not as confident, but they come up with the best ideas. They're so creative and so genius, and their leadership skills are impeccable. Where did you sum up the courage to say, you know what? I'm going to stand in boardrooms. I'm going to chart into this particular sector, which is predominantly a male-dominated sector. And I'm going to bring change as an amazing superwoman.
Oh, crikey. I want to say I've always had it.
Yeah.
I want to say growing up, my parents, Italian Afrikaans, they used to say to me, jy is so voor op die wa. And I never really understood what that meant until I became an adult. And I really do take the bull by the horns, you know.
Yeah.
I'm on the front of the wagon. And I don't know if that means that I've always had leadership qualities. I'm not sure. But I am very conscious and very aware that being a successful businesswoman in today's age does have its downfalls. Never mind the fact that I'm quite young. And I don't want to say that I've downplayed that, but I must admit, and I'm going to share a secret here, but Taylor Swift, she's like my role model.
Yeah.
And it's because she wrote a song, If I Was a Man. And that resonates with me so much. And I think it might resonate with a lot of other businesswomen as well, because would we get there quicker if we were a man? Would people take us more seriously? Would they comment about what we wore? Would they comment about whether or not we were rude? So I truly believe that women are watched more. And, there is a much finer eye on female entrepreneurs than they are on male entrepreneurs. And so that's why for us, sticking together as women and female entrepreneurs, I think is vital in this business. And empowering each other along the way. Got to have each other's backs.
Yeah. But now, do you? I mean, in all these years, right? You've been a professional, and you're in entrepreneurship. Do you find that the other women out there in the same space are open to these collaborative initiatives?
I'd like to believe so. Definitely. You've introduced me to some incredible women in leadership. And we're very, very like-minded in the sense. But there is an element of we are taken less seriously. Yeah. And I'm not 100% sure why that is, but there are a lot of things that motivate me and that keep me going and that empower other women. We registered one of our ladies who's on her learnership with us, and she's now started her own business. And the euphoria that she got, the euphoria that we got from supporting her to get her business off the ground, that's exactly why we're doing this. So I'd like to believe that they're open to collaborative synergies like this.
So, I mean, I look at you, right? I've interacted with you, but I look at you right now, I think from the lens of the entrepreneurs that are watching this podcast, or listening to this podcast, and I mean, you sound eloquent. She looks really good. So go watch the YouTube podcast if you're listening to this podcast. You will watch it visually, right? You don't look like the struggles that entrepreneurs go through, right? It almost doesn't even seem like you experienced it. So,
that fake it till you make it till you become it. It's real. I tell you, it's real.
And I like that, right? But now take me through, have you even experienced any challenges in business?
Oh, my goodness.
And, I mean, is there one or two or three that sort of stand out? Where it was so tough or it seemed so difficult, where you sort of felt like, I'm out. I'm out. Or I need a strong glass of something. I need to just go sleep.
I think there are a number of days like that. And the reality is, from all the research I've done, they say that less than 70% of small businesses make it to their 5th year, which is alarming.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're in our 5th year, I almost feel like the pressure's on now. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's the pressure is not off. It's actually doubled for us because now we've reached this 5-year mark and we've got to look at the next big 5. So there really have been days where I have come into the office and I've gone, abort mission! Abort mission! And, I love that word accountability. And I think as an entrepreneurship or in entrepreneurship, accountability is critical. There are very few people in this world that can be held accountable and not rationalize mistakes or pass blame or actually just disappear or quit or give up. And for me, I've always been pretty good at that. If, I've made a mistake, which I've made many of, don't get me wrong. This journey doesn't come without mistakes. And listen, for those of you who know what the Enneagram is, I'm a dominant style 3, and that's a deliverer. So, there's many entrepreneurs who say, well, you don't know success until you've failed, But what is failure? Failure to me is really when you've given up. Because if you don't give up, you haven't failed. It's like that quote as you walk into the office this year where it says, we give everything except for giving up. And that's exactly that. So what is failure? And yet, as a dominant 3, we have a strong fear of failure because I'm going to die trying. And it might mean I'm hitting absolute rock bottom. And there are days where I have come into the office and my team are going, do we need to be worried, But I've never given up. I've never quit. And if you get tired or burnt out along the way, which you do, you don't quit, you rest. And you focus on you and you do what you need to do because entrepreneurship doesn't just mean you carry you carry a whole lot of other people and you carry their families as well. So you are solely responsible for so much more than just yourself. And entrepreneurship, we think freedom, freedom to move, freedom to make your own decisions. But what they don't tell you is that when you leave a corporate, when you leave that 8:30 to 4:30, it's 24/7.
Yeah.
And you'll know. It's 24/7. It's non-stop. It's first thing in the morning. It is late at night. It is sacrificing family time. It's sacrificing social time. It's sacrificing money. And you've got to hold yourself accountable, and you've got to be disciplined enough to hit that mark and to not quit.
And I think that's one of the things I love, right? I think about you because you are part of these amazing women that are redefining or just defining their own journeys, right? Because I think most of the women some of the women I've interacted with, I think some of the biggest challenges is working out of the mindset. And I think maybe you must just engage us on that. Working out of the mindset that a woman is supposed to. But a woman belongs in these spaces, A woman can't be out up until 1, 2, 3. What is a woman doing chasing business? What is and I think a lot of them then get trapped in this mindset that says, it's difficult to break out of this socio mentality, this social mindset in terms of how a woman is supposed to be. How did you do that, and how do you continue to sort of defy these odds daily and create your own perception and tunnel vision all the way through?
That is such a beautiful question. And there's another element to that, Bulelani, and that's how do you continue to build relationships based on all those stereotypes of what a woman should be? And I was raised in a household that said, You had kids, you got married, the man comes home, the dinner is cooked, the house is tidy, the children are quiet, and you serve your man. And the reality was I had a relationship for 11 years like that. And when I started dabbling in this whole idea of entrepreneurship and starting my own business, they often say when your career goes up, your relationships go up in flames. And I never quite understood what that meant, but I do now, because as a female entrepreneur, and I don't know if it's the same for men, but you need such support from a partner and from the relationships that you build, whether those be friends, family. You really do. You need a strong support structure. And the reality is, the more successful I became, the worse my relationships got. And I know that seems sad to say, but honestly, it meant, and I don't want to share too much, but a lot of my being in a relationship with somebody was centered around, oh, I'm beautiful, so it's easy to make money. And so the stresses I have are actually not stresses at all. And it goes back to your previous questions around the challenges that you're faced with, in these relationships. And I think you've just got to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
You really do. Unequivocally true to who you are. And if entrepreneurship and if building client relationships and if that it means going out for dinners and truly building those relationships, I call it like deep-seeded flowers. It's like planting a seed and you can't just stare at it and hope it grows. You've got to water it. You've got to give it sunshine. And relationships are like that, because you don't build a business from nothing. You've got to really build the right kinds of relationships and the people along with you. And that takes a lot of your time and your commitment, which other people don't necessarily understand or support.
Now, on the back of that, what inspires you? Because I think when I had asked you an earlier question, you sort of touched on maybe that is what inspires you, being able to bring in the change to your community. But, on the back of that, is that the only thing that inspires you? What inspires you to wake up in the morning, to give it another shot?
I'm inspired by a lot of things. I really have a zest for life. And there are few people who can thrive on change, and uncertainty. And unfortunately, we live in a world that's very volatile. This topsy-turvy new world that we're living in has really shown me a few things, that there's a very big difference between being alive and knowing how to live. Very, very big difference. And when you know the difference for yourself, what that basically looks like, it can be a powerful driver. Because a lot of the time we all have external locuses of control. We're driven by external factors, as opposed to moving that locus of control internally to go, what do I need for me that's going to motivate and drive me? Because if we're very reliant on other people all the time, as you know, uncertainty is a big thing. COVID hit, we went into lockdown, and the dynamic of building relationships changed. We almost became, I call it a no-name brand, because all of a sudden, and again, it speaks to this authenticity about being a female entrepreneur. And I don't want to digress too much, but let's have a look at all these Zoom meetings and Teams meetings that we ended up doing. How many people actually had their cameras on? We all just, and the reality is, I'm going to ask you a personal question, but how long does it take you to get ready in the morning?
Takes me about an hour. Or less.
Look at this beautiful man.
For the camera. I can't defend myself and have people questioning, did he do certain things? No, it takes me way less than that.
But that's the reality, is what I'm saying. For a woman to do hair, to do makeup, to look good, that takes time.
Yeah, a lot of time, yeah.
And couple that with being a single mom, okay, running your own business. I mean, all these sort of things add up to a much greater whole of being an entrepreneur. And inspiration for me comes from the inside, whether it be through music, whether it be through people like yourself, whether it be through the fact that tomorrow holds whatever I want it to hold.
Yeah.
I make whatever tomorrow needs to be, because I'm in control. I have the power to make whatever tomorrow will be.
I mean, you mentioned earlier on that initially at your initiate stage you wanted to be a chef, which you didn't. She's always just tarted me at her amazing cooking that I've never experienced, but she's got an amazing personality, so the cooking doesn't matter. But now, of all the sectors that you could have delved into, why training specifically?
You know, it found me. I didn't find it. I had no idea. And this actually goes to show how little people know about the types of careers that they can pursue, what is actually out there. And this is why career readiness became a very big factor in the type of work that we're actually doing. And believe it or not, I mean, I was studying at IMM Graduate School of Marketing, and the HR director one day came to me and said, listen, there is this amazing opportunity in training and development, and have you ever learned about SAQA and different qualifications? And I went, nope, studying marketing, have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm keen. She said, cool, come for an interview. And she was gone. I wore pumpkin. So I had a big chuckle just now, because I did. I wore a bright pumpkin shirt with a grey suit and a little heart choker. Anyway, and black hair, Bulelani, black hair. And I sat down and she looked at me. Her name was Rabia. She looked at me and she said,
This is not it.
No, this is not going to fly. And she was the first person to take me on a coaching journey of fake it till you make it. And then further it transgressed to, you know, once you've made it, become it. And really, it resonates with me so much, because as an entrepreneur, you've got to be better than you were yesterday. Comparison is the thief of joy. Don't compare yourself to anybody. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, and make sure you're a better person today than you were yesterday. And she gave me a month. She gave me tools. She gave me a month, and she said, go. And I came back a month later for another interview, and I sat down in front of her, and she just looked at me and she said, you've got the job.
Oh, wow.
And I walked out of that interview, and that was almost 13 years ago. I walked out of that interview going, this is going to change my life. And it's amazing how hindsight is 20/20, because I never would have thought that I would own my own business in this space. But it's given me the opportunity to, number one, shake things up, do things very differently, and do it right.
You know, there's one thing I think I love about you is the passion that goes into the work that you do. And I think one of the programs which you sort of initiated our relationship with was the Enneagram. And then you told me about these amazing cool things that you do. Maybe let's just settle on that. You know, what do you guys do? What is the Enneagram? Because you sort of mentioned it earlier on, and maybe someone out there is interested in even doing it for themselves, because I didn't, and I think that you guys would love it if you had the opportunity to just do it.
I have such love for that tool. I really, really do. So the Enneagram was introduced in this country 27 years ago for the first time through an organization called Enya International, who we are now partners in. And basically, for those of you who are familiar with Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, they're anthropologists. They've studied the human brain, and they've really studied behavior. And I have, since I was younger, I've had a secret obsession with Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung for no reason. I get it now. It's amazing how when I was 15, you fall in love with these things. And I started studying the human brain and understanding how the brain works. And why do some people have such great confidence and can talk to hundreds of people and feel nothing, and other people can barely get words out, and other people are assertive, other people are very defensive, you know. And it's really understanding different behaviors and how do our behaviors mold our actions. And so probably about 5 years ago, we were introduced into the Enneagram and became certified Enneagram practitioners. And it's not a tool that is designed by any means to box you in, because often that's what happens. We get boxed in to go, oh, you're an introvert, you're an extrovert, you know, you're passive, you're assertive. We're everything, and we can be all things at any given time. But the driving force behind this is self-awareness. And self-awareness is, who am I?
Yeah.
I need to understand myself. And let's be honest, a lot of people are afraid to get to actually know themselves, to really look themselves in the mirror and go, ooh, okay, I need to fix that. Or, ooh, I need to improve on that. Or, you know, I must keep building on that. And so the whole journey is around self-awareness, personal mastery, and resilience. Resilience is critical, especially in today's age. What is resilience? It's the ability to be flexible. When plan A doesn't go according to plan, like, do I flip out? Do I freak out? Or do I go, okay, cool, next option? Because to me, that's what no means. No is not no. It's not definitive. It's what is the next option for me, know? Yeah. And it's about self-efficacy. Do you believe in you? And that's part of not giving up as an entrepreneur is, do you believe you have what it takes to get through tough times? When the going gets tough, the tough get tougher. Yeah. We don't back down.
Yeah.
And then your emotional stability, meaning, how do you fare in your emotions? Can you manage yourself and your levels of emotions? And that is why the Enneagram is so powerful, because now all of a sudden you've got these tools that go, how does this show up in my behavior? Good or bad? Constructive or destructive? And how do you manage those behaviors so that you can be better tomorrow? And obviously there are 9 Enneagram styles, but you're all 9. You're all levels of those 9. And each style has their own set of behaviors, their own set of strengths, weaknesses, defense mechanisms. And it's a powerful tool in really understanding who you are. And what's really, really amazing is we've actually been growing this tool in such a way that because it's quite a high-level professional tool, but we've started growing this tool through another product of Ennea International called Personality Star. And Personality Stars is a smaller report designed for youth, so that youth can also go through this understanding of, actually, who am I? Am I prone to drug and alcohol abuse? Because there are certain numbers that are. Are there certain numbers that are heavy? Or why am I, every cloud has a silver lining and I'm so bubbly and I'm not affected by anything? How do you use your Enneagram styles to your advantage to improve your behavior, to improve your responses to the external world? Because nothing happens to you. Everything happens in favor of you. And if we can start to look at life from that lens, but it starts with our youth. It has to start with the youth. And I find we're starting too late. And that's why Personality Star is incredibly powerful. And now we're not only focusing on self-awareness, but we're focusing on careers. So based on your personality, what type of careers should you be pursuing? We've got something out called our Heart Report, which is really about language. Being able to articulate what you need to articulate to others about who you are. Because let's face it, there are some people who struggle to really communicate who they are and what they're really made of at their core. And then the other one is the relationships report, because everybody wants to work on their relationships.
Yeah, sure. Wow. And you know what, right? And which is why I was like, you teasing, because she was like, I'm so nervous, I don't do this stuff. And here she is just dropping bombs left, right, and center. And
it's you, it's all you, I'll be honest.
And the thing is, you've got this wealth of wisdom, right? And I'm looking forward to sharing it all over with T as we move along. But if I'm listening to this, right, and I want to participate in sort of unpacking the power of self-awareness through this Enneagram, the Personality Star, can I do this, from home? How do I do this?
Absolutely. So, you can follow us on social media. Personality Star is on Instagram. Grow Right Edge is on Instagram. Grow Right is on Instagram. Or alternatively, if you go to our website, growright.co.za, all the information is there. But most of these assessments are done online, and you can do it on your mobile phone. 20 minutes assessment, you get your report straight away. But we really offer a lot of support, especially for our youth. They'll do this report, they'll read through it, but it's a brand new level of understanding. You're introduced to something that's foreign to you almost. And, we're happy to take our candidates, our delegates who come through our doors through this process. So we run Personality Star workshops. We run personal mastery workshops. For Youth Day next week, we're actually running on the 15th a workshop to actually support youth in starting and registering their own business, using LinkedIn as a proper marketing resource tool. So it's really about giving back,
Now, with everything you've said, if you had an opportunity to give advice to the younger you, and also being cognizant of the fact that there's a lot of young Michelinas listening to this podcast right now, what would you advise yourself? Either to do more of or to do less of? No guidelines, but what would you say to her?
Feel the fear. Do it anyway. honestly. And that's actually a book.
But what's the significance of that? Maybe just break it down for us.
So fear can be debilitating completely. It can prevent you from making decisions. It can numb you into, or should I say, numb you out of action. And a lot of the times we get caught in our head. You know, we're always thinking too far ahead, and we get stuck in our heads, and all the dreams and the passions that we have for ourselves and for our lives. A lot of times people go, oh, dreams too big. And we've been there. I've been there. I've been there where dreams scare me. And then you go, oh, no, you know, because there's that, oh, what if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if this goes wrong? And don't get me wrong, fear is there to keep you safe. But if you don't feel the fear, acknowledge the fear, and then just do it anyway. And that does take work. That takes courage and strength. And I actually learned something recently about, you know, as humans, we don't like to feel the edge. And a lot of people are like, well, what does that mean? You know, but think about it. On a Monday when work's been tough, you go home, you have a glass of wine, you take the edge off, right? That's what we do as humans, because it's just easier to relax in that moment than it is to actually sit in the fire. Sit in the fire of those edges, feel those rough edges, because that is where strength, that is where courage, and more importantly, that is where self-awareness lies. Because a lot of the time, two emotions, fear and guilt, they prevent us from following our dreams and living a life of purpose.
I mean, you sort of mentioned earlier on how, you know, about 13 years ago, you got this amazing opportunity, and this lady was able to coach you and give you guidance in terms of these are the requisites, this is what you need to do, this is how you need to do it. How important is that, right? Whether it be coaching or mentorship, for us to pay it forward in that sense, or rather, how was it important in your entrepreneurial growth journey?
I'll answer both questions, and I'll have to say it's pertinent. You have to do it. And a lot of the time people think, oh, no, I don't, you know. But the truth of it is, let's quickly go back into a corporate environment, right? So when you don't deliver in a corporate environment, what happens? You get performance managed.
Yeah.
You get held accountable. When you make a promise to you, when you say, listen, today is the day I'm going to do this, or I'm going to achieve that, and you don't, what happens?
Oh, it's a reset. Oh, I'll get it together next week.
Nothing.
Or next year. Nothing.
Nothing.
There's no retribution. Nothing.
You don't hold yourself accountable, but other people will hold you accountable. And if you make a promise to somebody else, by hook or by crook, you're there. You commit. If you've made a promise to somebody, you know you've got their back. Yet, if you make a promise to yourself and you break it, it's okay. And the reality is, and this is the reason why coaching and mentoring is so important, because as humans, we do lack discipline. We really lack it because it's hard work. It really is hard work. It's not easy being committed, getting up at 5 o'clock every morning, you know, putting in the grind. It's hard work. But when you have a coach, when you have a mentor, and I've always had one, and they take different shapes and they take different forms, but they hold you accountable for the work you need to do. And so it's absolutely pertinent that as an entrepreneur, you need them. I've had them, and I recommend that if that's the journey you go on, you need somebody that's going to keep pushing you.
So if someone is listening to this, right, I love what you mentioned in terms of the work that you guys are going to be doing, the Youth Day week, right? If someone is listening to this and they think to themselves, man, I've always had this idea, or, you know, I've always heard about this thing called businessman, businesswoman, being an entrepreneur, and I want to start. I'm this young guy, I want to start. Where or how, according to you, you know, should be the steps I take in starting? What does starting look like in that respect? Do I register? Do I what?
So, I mean, all I know is what I did. And it seems to have worked.
Perfect,
You know what I mean? So it's, I mean, if I rewind to going, oh, okay, I'm going to leave corporate, I'm going to do this thing, you know? And it's, you've got to have a clear vision. You've got to know what you want to set out to achieve. And more importantly, why? What is the why, the purpose behind what it is you want to do? Everything you want is on the other side of service. You know, I find that if you are changing lives for a living...
Say that again. Sorry, guys. It's powerful. Please say that. I'm sorry to rewind.
No, it's
a
okay.
live recording.
everything you want is on the other side of service.
Yeah, man.
And we often forget that. We do.
Yeah.
Because we're here to help one another. We're here to empower and support one another. And too often we're only looking out for our own. And again, it also just stems back to fear, And what we do is a life of service. It's supporting other people. It's empowering others. It's helping individuals see past that fear to be able to get a permanent job or to start their own businesses. And don't get me wrong. I mean, as much as I'm an advocate for entrepreneurship, which I am, the learnership interventions that we run do often end in full-time employment. But the reality is full-time employment has not been sustainable. It hasn't been sustainable. And COVID has showed us that. And so by growing entrepreneurs in this space, when you create a successful entrepreneur, you'll know you now open the doors for more employment, which means you are growing the economy. But it does start off with a clear vision of what are you setting out to achieve and why. And then I know it seems silly, but, values. Values are vital for me. Because what are values? A lot of people, and they can vouch for this, they don't know their company values. But why? It's because values are behaviors. Behaviors are a set of principles that we live by, what I call our non-negotiables. And values are so important because they define your culture. Your culture defines your brand. Your brand sells your business. And it all stems back to values. So for me, once you have a clear vision, clear understanding of what it is you're trying to achieve, why you want to achieve it, then go, how do I want to behave within this business? And then really setting up a business plan, because business plans are really, really important. It's like a map of where you want to go and how you're going to get there. And then once you have that solid foundation, CIPC, baby.
Yeah, then you register.
Absolutely.
And then I think for me, when you started, did you get funding? Did you get this, your banker rings you up, there's 2 million, bam.
I wish. And it's funny, I was having a discussion when we landed from Cape Town last week, and I was saying, these banks promote small businesses and how involved they are, but never has my bank bothered to pick up the phone and go, hi, Michelina, listen, we can see this is what you're doing with your small business. We see how much you've grown with us in the last 5 years. Yeah. How can we sit down? How can we help? And I'm going, still waiting for that call. And there's this pressure that says, oh no, small businesses start with funding. No, it doesn't. Not at all. Not at all. And so when I'm going, I left corporate, 1 month's salary, and I made it happen. In my first year, all I did was consult, travel into Africa a lot, and just really cover my own salary that I was making by consulting, by growing what I know or what I had already known of. And then, fast forward another 5 years and...
Yeah, of growth and development.
Absolutely.
But now tell me this. So here you are, you're this Lone Ranger. You do this consulting stuff. You put bread on the table. You align and you grow this business. Now you're hiring the first 3-4 people to come into the company to help you out. How was that? Because a lot of us as entrepreneurs struggle with that, right? Because it's the shock of, I'm so used to doing everything. Is Peter going to do it right?
Yeah, I got to relinquish control.
We believe that we are the only ones who can do it right.
Yeah.
We are the only ones who know the right angles, who know the right design methodology, who knows the lingo, the processes,
how to speak to clients.
The legalities. How did you manage that, and how do you continue to manage your teams? Because I think, the growth of amazing, successful companies is teams, and we can't negate that. How do you continue to do that? And I think that advice is super crucial, even for me and other entrepreneurs listening to this.
Yeah. So, and I totally resonate with what you've just said. And I hate to tell you this, but the Enneagram saved my relationship with Peter as my first employee. And again, it just boils back down to personalities, because in an organization, we often take things personally. Everything is a personal attack on somebody, or they take it personally. And before you know it, you've lost good relationships with people. But when you understand why people behave the way they behave, you realize that it's just or should I say, you realize where they're coming from, and you can relate better to them and why they behave the way they behave. And number one, you've really just got to let control go and trust. Trust is important. You cannot build a team without a foundation of trust. And in instilling trust within your team and your culture, because remember, they're buying into your vision. So that's why I say it starts with vision. Whatever your vision is, whatever the grander picture is at the end of the day, you're selling that concept to your employees, and they're buying into that vision. Because without buying into that vision, direction, alignment, commitment, you don't have trust. And as a leader, you've got to make sure, where is this business headed? And is there alignment? Meaning, are we on the same page to make sure that we're going to get there? And the commitment, because you cannot have commitment without ensuring direction and alignment. And if you can, we call it DAC. If you can get that direction, alignment, and the commitment from your employees, you've got their trust.
Sure, that's
and
amazing.
They'll grow with you.
No, that's amazing. Now tell me this. You've done this amazing work. What were some of, or what was the one moment you looked at was like, oh man, I did well here. We've just won here. We are happy. We're at a good place here. A moment of achievement, a moment of joy, a moment of, I spoke to an entrepreneur who was like, his biggest moment was, when he used to call into his company and there was the voice prompt. Press 1. Hello, you've gotten to bulelani.co.za. Press 1 for sales. Press 2 for the manager. Press 3 for HR. Press 5 for accounts. It's like, and then he hangs up and says, wow, man, is this my company?
I know. And it's those little moments, where they say you got to stop and smell the roses, right? Because as an entrepreneur, you just go, go, go. I mean, I often say I've got one speed, and that's go. Or full steam ahead. And I think I'm proud to say we've had a lot of those little moments, and you kind of want to go, when we hit our first million, and let me tell you, it's not that. And all those little moments that make such significant impact, it's never about the money.
Yeah.
It's always about realizing that you're happy without that. You're happy with a client going, you've done such an exceptional job. You're happy when a client has given you a referral to another client. When you have strategic partners who are no longer partners, but they are now family. And it's a matter of being invited into people's homes, into people's hearts. It's when you can connect the dots with other people, when you can go, cool, I've done all I can do for this client. I can now pass them on to somebody else who's as like-minded as us, so that they can move up and onward to the next level. It's sitting in my office alone, or in our workspace when I'm completely alone, and just taking 2 minutes to go, oh my God, this is real, because you're on the go all the time. There isn't really moments where you just stop and breathe. And it's in those little moments where you've got to smell the roses, where you've got to remind yourself how far you've come.
Sure. Now, my last question, and we wrap it up. What advice would you give to, it's Youth Month as well, so I think let's take advantage of that, right? What advice would you give to a young entrepreneur out there, an aspirant young individual listening to this podcast, who's trying to chart their own way, who's trying to map out their own vision, who's trying to really just grow their business, because there's a lot of us survivalist business owners, and we're really just trying to keep afloat. What advice would you give?
I'm going to say drown out the naysayers.
I like that.
Because you're going to get a lot of those. You're going to get a lot of people along the way who are going to make you feel that you're not good enough. Or that, how many times I've heard when people go, slow down, Michelina. And I tell you, I just want to, I really just want to be like, really, is this it? Is this where my ceiling is supposed to be capped? Because I tell you, in the next 10 to 15 years, I have enormous, they call it the BHAG dream, the big, hairy, audacious goal. And drown out those naysayers that are going to want to hold you back, because you'll be surrounded by people who won't always understand your vision, who won't always support that vision. Hold your hand for that growth, and keep surrounding yourself by positive people who want to see you grow.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is episode number 30, and I'm staring at Peter, so I'm not looking off camera. Peter's an amazing gent in studio here with us. Episode number 33. Thank you so much for listening to this amazing podcast. How do we get a hold of you? I know you mentioned it earlier on. How do we get a hold of Grow Right and the sort?
Absolutely. So, easy email address, engage@growright.co.za. You can reach out to us. You can contact us. All our contact details are on our website. You can go onto Personality Star's website to reach us. You can go onto Instagram. And for everyone who knows me, my cell phone number is floating out there in the ether. And people are more than welcome to contact me directly on my cell. Always open to having a conversation, picking my brain, sharing advice, motivating people. Happy. And I really want to say thank you to you.
No, man, thank you.
You've been a massive inspiration in what we're trying to do. And to Pete, I know nobody can see him, but my gem and the person who steers the ship, I wouldn't be here without him. I wouldn't. And
Shout out to Peter.
The right team is important.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, man, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching. If you want to know
guys.
more about Grow Right, we're going to put their details up on the blurb. You get to know more about who they are. Their website is on there as well on the blurb. Thank you so much for watching. Share this podcast and have a beautiful week. See you guys again next week. Bye.
Bye.
That's it for today. If you like that podcast, show us some love and share it with your network. Once again, follow us on all of our social media platforms, #JoinUsForTea, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Shout out to Joe Public for making this possible. Remember, Sisonke Rikaufela and Foster Njengomzegezege.